Here's what Tim Cook told you. iPhone prices are going up, and there's nothing Apple can do about it. Here's what he didn't tell you. Apple is cutting costs inside these same phones at the same time. If you're about to drop $1,200, $1,400, maybe $2,000 on an iPhone this fall, you deserve both halves of that story. So here's what we know. IDC, one of the most respected tech analytics firms in the world, just predicted that the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max could see a price increase of $100 to $200. That would push the Pro from $1,099 to potentially $1,299, and the Pro Max from $1,199 to $1,399. And in the worst-case scenario, floating around from supply chain sources, the iPhone 18 Pro could start as high as $1,399. That's a $300 jump in a single generation. Tim Cook himself went on record saying that price increases are unavoidable because of rising memory and storage costs. DRAM and NAND flash prices are climbing. That part is real. The supply chain is tight, and component costs are up across the entire industry. Cook even called it a 100-year flood, the kind of supply shock he says he hasn't seen in over 40 years in this business. But here's the thing. That's real, but it's not the full story. Not even close. Apple is telling you about rising costs. What they're not telling you is that they're simultaneously cutting costs on the inside of these phones in a way that could offset a chunk of that memory price bump. JP Morgan's own analysts have made this exact case. They think Apple's push toward in-house components, like its custom C-series modem, means the iPhone 18 Pro price increase could land a lot smaller than the worst-case numbers floating around. Every time Apple replaces a chip it used to buy from someone else, like the modem it used to buy from Qualcomm, with its own, the cost per unit drops. So let me ask you a question. If your component costs are going up on memory, but your component costs are going down on the chips you used to outsource, why would the phone need to cost $300 more instead of $100 more? Maybe it doesn't. Or maybe it does, and Apple uses a real, visible cost increase, memory, to justify a bigger price move than the actual math requires. Either way, you deserve to see both sides of that number, not just the scary one. That matters a lot. But here's where it gets really interesting. Apple isn't just adjusting Pro prices. There's also the foldable iPhone, the device a lot of leakers are now calling the iPhone Ultra instead of the iPhone Fold. Same device, new name, and it's expected to land alongside the Pro lineup this September as Apple's most expensive iPhone ever. The numbers on this one have actually been moving, and not in the direction you'd expect. Early estimates from analysts like Ming-Chi Kuo and Bloomberg's Mark Gurman put it at $2,000 to $2,500. Fubon Research went even higher, at $2,400. But the most recent reporting, citing JP Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee, has it converging closer to $1,999 to start. Here's why that number actually matters for the Pro story. If Apple wants one Halo product to carry the eye-watering price tag, the foldable, that gives it room to keep the Pro and Pro Max increases smaller than it could otherwise get away with. The Ultra becomes the phone that makes a $1,299 Pro look almost reasonable by comparison. That's not a side story. That might be the whole strategy. Now, you might be thinking, that's fine, I'll just buy the regular iPhone 18. Right, about that. Here's the leak that doesn't get talked about enough. Multiple supply chain sources, including a public comment from Largan Precision, one of Apple's own camera lens suppliers, suggest Apple isn't launching a standard iPhone 18 this September at all. Just the Pro Max, and the Ultra. The base iPhone 18 and the 18e would slide to spring 2027 instead. Think about what that means for this fall specifically. If there's no $799 iPhone 18 in September, your cheapest entry point into the new lineup becomes the Pro, at $1,099 today, or more likely $1,199 to $1,299 with the hike. The cheapest new iPhone you can buy this September just went from $799 to potentially $1,299. Not forever. The cheaper models are still expected next spring, but for the entire holiday shopping season, the affordable options simply won't exist. That's not a price increase. That's a temporary price floor removal, timed for exactly the months when people spend the most. Apple isn't just charging more for their best phones. For one launch window, they're removing the option to pay less. And they're doing it while telling you it's about memory costs. It's just Apple being Apple? Now, I want to be fair here. None of this is confirmed by Apple. The base iPhone 18 delay is a supply chain rumor, even if a well-sourced one. The $1,399 figure is a worst-case scenario, not a confirmed price. But the direction across every source, Cook's unavoidable comments, the Ultra absorbing the high end, the base model sliding to next year, points to the same strategy. Protect the margin, control the story. Let me break down the math, because I think you deserve to see the numbers. According to Tech Insights, the research firm Apple's own pricing watchers lean on, the iPhone 17 Pro costs Apple somewhere around $582 in raw components. Apple sells it for $1,099. That's a gross margin of roughly 47%, before R&D, marketing, and distribution. Now, Tech Insights estimates the memory inside the iPhone 18 Pro alone could add over $140 to that bill of materials, driven almost entirely by DRAM and NAND prices. That's a real, serious cost increase. Nobody's denying that part. To hold the exact same 47% margin, Apple would need to raise the price by roughly $270, which lines up with the worst-case $1,369 to $1,399 numbers you've seen floating around. But that's the number if Apple changes nothing else. And Apple is changing something else. The C-Series modem alone cuts out a chip Apple used to buy from Qualcomm on every single iPhone. JP Morgan's read is that this brings the realistic price increase closer to $50 than $270. So when you hear $1,399, that's the ceiling, not the most likely outcome. And now you know why the range is so wide. So when Tim Cook says price increases are unavoidable, the honest read is, some increase probably is unavoidable, but exactly how much is still very much a choice Apple gets to make. Nobody wants to pay more for the same phone. But Apple is betting that you will, because what's the alternative? Samsung's raising prices too. Google's raising prices too. The entire industry is moving in lockstep, and Apple is deciding exactly how much of that room to use. Look, if this is the kind of coverage you want, not press releases, not spec sheets, but the actual story behind the numbers, hit that like button and subscribe to Tech Weekly right now. Because I'm going to keep breaking this down as the iPhone 18 launch gets closer. Every leak, every confirmation, every price reveal, we cover it the moment it drops. And drop a comment below. What's your breaking point? $1,199? $1,299? $1,399? At what price do you actually skip the upgrade? I read every single one. So here's the honest take. The iPhone 18 Pro is going to be more expensive. That's about as close to a fact as a rumor gets. The real question is, how much more? Somewhere between $50 and $270, depending on which analyst you trust. And Apple is going to lean on memory costs, supply chain pressure, and unavoidable as the explanation no matter where it lands. But you deserve the full picture. Apple is genuinely facing a real memory cost spike. It's also genuinely cutting costs elsewhere, launching a Halo device that makes everything else look cheaper by comparison, and timing a gap in its cheap iPhone lineup right before the busiest shopping season of the year. All of that can be true at once. This isn't just a price hike, it's a price repositioning. And whether it works depends on whether people like you actually do the math, which is exactly why you're watching this video, instead of just reading Apple's press release in September. If you've been waiting for the iPhone 18 Pro to upgrade, here's my advice. Budget for $1,299. Hope for less. If it comes in lower, great. But hope alone isn't a strategy, especially with this many signals pointing the other way. And if you're coming from an iPhone 15 or older, the jump will still be worth it. The camera, the chip, the battery, all of it'll be genuinely better. Apple isn't making a worse phone. They're just making sure you pay more to find out how much better it is. Good. Subscribe to Tech Weekly right now so you don't miss a single update. Every leak, every confirmation, every spec, every price. We cover it the moment it drops. I'll see you in the next one.